Let me work on more about the book from Shimura about Daisetz and talking about the wisdom of Zen and wisdom of our life, learning from Daisetz. I got some feedback, so I think I may do some more. There are lots of interesting stuff, but let me start from this one. This is page 69. Shimura has been asking Daisetz about Satori, enlightenment, and he was referring to Koan Sutra, non-duality, how to go through the non-duality, and one is one, but at the same time two, that kind of stuff. It's very weird, perhaps, but this is an easy one, perhaps, that we can communicate. So Shimura is asking Daisetsu, tell me more about this non-duality. But it's not in a metaphysical way, but easy to understand. And Daisetsu was pointing to say, look at the pine tree. And this is the time when there was rain from the morning. So he pointed, and he says that we look at the pine tree in the rain, we feel sad, maybe compassionate. The word is feel sorry about that, because there is such a sense that may exist on the side of the pine tree. Maybe you don't believe it, but here is the way he explained that when we see a broken doll, we may feel sad or sorry about it. And such sense is stronger for kids. Maybe I'm like a kid, so I feel like that too. Sensitivity, non-duality. They are not as separated. Me and you and we are different. They are like together. Even with a doll, feel sorry about it. Anyway, that's my little comment footnote. So there's something resonating between us and the pine tree or the doll. Although pine tree is the pine tree and we are as we are different. So are they really different between us, one against the other? But we can't just say that. It's kind of like if you don't have others, you don't exist. Kind of like that, perhaps. So there are two separate, but one. But one, but separate. So this is the interesting part about Buddhism. So Daisetsu, gave the example pine tree and doll, and then start to talk more in a conceptual manner. And he's talking about, this is Vimalkirti Sutra, very well used in Zen, and it's really interesting. But anyway, within that is a chapter about going through that non-duality as a way to get it. So, not two is non-duality, but here, not in the sense of Indian way of non-duality, or Wittgenstein and others talk about non-duality, Advaita. Well, it is, but he's making it simple. So it's not two, but it doesn't say one. But because if we say one, we think in math sense. So one is there because of two. And people tend to think of two. Therefore, we start with one, but we say not two. You get that? one makes us imagine about all that expansion, but they're talking about not two. So pushing you to say there's something more than dividing, but at the core of it. And Shimura asks, is that because denying the objectivity and subjectivity? And Daisetz says, not denying, it is as if before objective and subjective view. Not as if. He says before the objective view and the subjective view. Does that mean, so Shimura says, before separating? And Daisetz says, yes, before separation. So, but you cannot say go into the unseparated state or out of that state. Because if you say in and out, there are two. So we say Satori. We just get it as it is. Divided, one, accept it, get it. And Shimura says, okay, so that's where you can say anything. There's nothing to be talked about. And Daisetz says, yeah, so you can't say anything, but you cannot just deny it or be negative about it. So that's the state, the ultimate affirmation, or at the end, or ultimate affirmation. So what we have it, that state as the base. I often talk about the core of our being. That's pointing the same thing. We came from somewhere, that's the cause of it. And he says that absolute affirmation is the foundation, and constructing from that organizational thinking is the way, Eastern way of study, learning of what is. So Shimura says, so the study with that sense all captured together, is that what you're saying, that Eastern philosophy, Eastern way of thinking? And Daisetz says, I'd like to say it that way. So beginning of the Eastern philosophy or thinking is there. Yet in the Western world, they start from separation. As much as like the God created heaven and earth. So God is the creation, and therefore there's one who creates and the one who is being created. But in the East, it's not like that. It says that as if before the God said the way to be should be, without saying like to be or anything. Don't say anything. And what is there is the one. You can call it God, or if I were to use the Koan, who is the one before your parents are gone? Original face of that original. So that's basically what it's talking about. Not in the sense of the creator and being created. Before anything to happen, the core of it is what the Eastern thinking start. So again, when the God says there be light, then it's already divided. That it doesn't say that. It's before that. Before the lip moves, grab the God. That's the point. And that's before anything to be divided, broken, separated. And that's what the Enoh or Huineng, sixth patriarch of Zen, coming down from Bodhidharma 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth one, Enoh says, without thinking good and bad, before your parents are born, what is the face of that true being? I'm trying to communicate that, but translate as I go. But it's basically point that without talking about good and bad, and before your parents have had you born, and before all the way back, and who is that original being? Tell me about it. So that's like a koan. So that's the origin of the origin, the core of our being. And that's the term I often use. At the heart, there's a brain, heart, that's the way I often explain. Not being caught in the brain, which is dividing things and all that. But before that is the law of universe manifesting for us to be born, and the Garden of Eden and eating the fruit of knowledge, and then start to play with this mind or brain. So that's the relationship, and they're talking about whole origin of it. So that was the koan, and it's not to be resolved with your brain, because they're trying to divide and figure out and describe. So before two, not two, the origin. So whoever start to get training in Zen is, let's say they face the koan and given, and you sit and try to come up with your answer to present to your Roshi, and they ring the bell, now try again, so that logically you cannot go through. And that's what put the monks, this is more in the Rinzai sect, to go through this koan exercise, struggling. They're facing the limit of the brain, so to speak. But when you're doing it, how do you do that? You struggle. I mentioned about my awakening experience with the struggle. I was trying to get out of it. I was not trying to be one with it. Because that's how we are programmed. And it's easy to talk about it. But in reality, when you're sitting there and have to talk with the Roshi and come back every day, what did you get? And they only one-to-one sit together or talk about and talking about the koan, and then present your case and said, not enough. So before the object and subject is something that is beyond your thinking. So that's why no self, no mind, no thinking. That's where the connection in samadhi would put you into the state which is unreal from the Western thinking, where they start from dividing and talking endlessly without going upward, except start with God, because it's easy. But Eastern way is step beyond that, before that. So let me just go one more page. So what is the way of having liberated life? So that's the subtitle here. So Shimura is saying that so when we talk about not thinking of good or bad, does that is to mean going beyond the morality. So when a monk asked Enoh, who gave the koan or the original self before parents born, are there any other secret other than this? And Enoh responded, if there's any secret, the secret is on your end. In Buddhism, there's no secret. So, not thinking good or bad before moving your lips about the God, before the God happens to do something, we face ourselves and to resolve with the brain is not the kind of problem to go beyond the constraint of the mind. That's my word. And that's easy to say, but it's not easy to do because we are not used to it. But that's just my footnote. So anyway, Daisetz is pointing that the study, I don't know if this is the right translation, gaku is learning. So Eastern learning, the beginning of the learning of the study is right there. But even if you hear about in this manner, Shimura says, it may be easy to be explained, but you still cannot grab it. And so Shimura points that he heard Daisetsu saying that I want to have the Eastern way of thinking, philosophy, especially Buddhism. I want to explain and let the Western people to understand. Buddhism shouldn't be just staying in this little island. There's a grand philosophical impact this can have for the whole world. So that's what Daisetsu pointed that Shimura remember. And he says, please not just talk to the foreigners, but for us Japanese, and so that we can really understand what the Buddhism is about. And after he said that, Daisetsu had a smile and he said this, if you haven't eaten chocolate, it's not easy to explain the taste of chocolate. I can explain, but what if you may get it? And he said, why don't you have a cup of tea? Because he's got lots of things to do. So Daisetsu, no, Shimura was watching Daisetsu having a tea and found that he has no stiffness or strong posture, but relaxed, as if the master of the swordsmanship is telling disciple, you can come from any direction. So he's pointing that Daisetsu looked very natural in the way and thought that's the way of how a person with Satori may behave. Something like that. That's page 73. Thank you.